Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are jumping into one of the wildest stories in the book of Genesis. We're talking about a promise that seems totally impossible, a moment of doubt that's just so human, and then a guy who decides who's going to negotiate with God. Seriously. So let's get into the Abrahamic Covenant.
All right, so where does this all begin? It starts with a number, 99. And yeah, that's the age of our guy Abram, 99 years old. Let's be real, he's way past the point of thinking about having kids. And yet, this is the exact moment, right then, that God shows up with a promise that is just, well, it's going to test everything he thought was possible. Now you got to understand, this wasn't just some casual, hey, I've got an idea kind of thing. Nope. What God puts on the table is a covenant. Think of it like a formal, binding, ironclad agreement. It's a divine contract. And it's not just going to change Abram's life, it's going to change, well, pretty much everything.
Okay, first up, a covenant is made. Let's look at the nuts and bolts of this deal. What was promised and what was required in return?
So what exactly is a covenant in this context? Well, it's not a one-way deal. It's described as an everlasting agreement. It's a sacred contract, It creates this special relationship where both sides have a part to play. God makes these huge promises, but Abraham and his family, they have obligations they've got to meet.
And the first thing that happens? A name change, which back then was a huge deal. Your name was basically your destiny. So Abram, which means exalted father, becomes Abraham, father of a multitude. And his wife Sarai becomes Sarah, which means princess. See, these aren't just new nicknames, they're a literal declaration of the brand new future that's being laid out for them.
So here's the breakdown of the deal. On God's side, the promises are, they're massive. He's promising that Abraham will be the father of many nations, that kings will come from his line, and that his descendants will get the land of Canaan. But Abraham has his part too. He's told to walk before God and be perfect. And then there's a physical, permanent sign of this whole agreement. Every single male has to be circumcised. This isn't just a handshake, It's a commitment that's literally marked on their bodies.
All right, next up, an unbelievable promise. Because just when you think the deal is settled, God drops the biggest bombshell of all.
So here it is, the big one. God tells Abraham, who's almost 100, that his wife, Sarah, who's 90, is going to have a son. And Abraham's immediate reaction, his gut reaction, he just falls on his face and laughs. You can't make this up. It's such a real, totally human moment of just complete disbelief.
But here's what's so incredible. Even though he's laughing on the inside, what does he do on the outside? He obeys. Instantly, the text makes a point of saying that on that self-same day, he goes and circumcises every single male in his household, just like he was told. So you've got this wild contrast, right? His internal feeling is pure doubt, but his action is total obedience.
Okay, now for the next part, the laughter in the tent. Because, yeah, the whole theme of laughing at this crazy promise, it's not over yet, not by a long shot.
So imagine this. Sarah is inside the tent and she overhears one of these visitors say that she's going to have a son. And what does she do? Just like Abraham, she laughs to herself. Can you blame her? Her private thought is basically, are you kidding me? After I'm this old and my husband is old too? It's just a totally understandable human reaction to something that sounds completely absurd.
Yeah, but here's the thing. This time, the laughter doesn't stay private. The Lord calls it out, asking Abraham why Sarah laughed. And then he asks this question, and really this is the central question of the whole story, is anything too hard for the Lord? That question just hangs in the air, right? It's a direct challenge to their human limitations.
So Sarah gets scared, right? She's been caught, and she denies it. She says, I didn't laugh. But the Lord's response is so simple, so direct. No, you did laugh, and that's it. There's no big punishment, nothing like that. It's just a simple statement of fact. Their doubt, their very human, relatable doubt, is now out in the open.
And now, things take a huge turn. In this next part, Abraham argues with God. Get this, the same guy who just laughed to himself about having a son is now about to stand up and argue face to face with God, and it's over a matter of life and death.
So the stakes get really high really fast. The visitors, who we now understand include the Lord, are heading towards Sodom and Gomorrah, and God lets Abraham in on the plan. He says he's going to check out the reports of how sinful these cities are, and if it's as bad as he's heard, he's going to destroy them.
And this is where everything shifts.
Abraham steps forward. He's not questioning a personal promise anymore, something for his own benefit. Now he's questioning a divine judgment. He asks God, "Will you really destroy the righteous with the wicked?" And then he drops this incredible line, "Shall not the judge of all the earth do right?" I mean, wow. He's basically appealing to God's own character, holding him to his own standard of justice.
What happens next is just one of the most amazing conversations in any text, anywhere. It's a negotiation. Abraham, who is super humble, calling himself but dust and ashes, starts the bidding. He says, "Okay, what if there are 50 righteous people? Will you spare the city?" And God says yes. So Abraham pushes. "Okay, what about 45? Yes. How about 40? Yes." And he keeps going, chipping away, down to 30, then 20, all the way down to just 10 righteous people. So what's the final result? Get this, God says yes to every single request. The conversation doesn't end because God puts his foot down and says no. It ends because Abraham stops asking. He gets down to 10 and just stops. It's an absolutely incredible picture of what it means to stand in the gap and advocate for others.
And that's what we're left with, this really fascinating question. What kind of relationship allows for both things? On the one hand, you have this absolute, unquestioning obedience. On the other, you have this bold, profound argument. It shows us that maybe faith isn't just about quietly accepting things. Maybe it's also about having the courage to ask the hard questions, to challenge and to fight for what's right, even when you're talking to the judge of all the earth.